Hello and welcome to the R Silent Podcast. Today we have an amazing episode for you. We're here with three lovely ladies. Let's get into it. All right, so we're going to start off with introductions. So we're going to go from my right. So Montana, tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us your name, your age, and what you do for a living.
Hi, my name is Montana. I am 25 years old. I actually work in sports and recreation management, and I'm also a bottle server. I really enjoy being in the hospitality industry as well as working with children and doing recreation, sports and recreation management. It's something that I'm very passionate about, and I truly enjoy working with not-for-profit organizations just because I feel like their values align with my values a lot. So yeah.
All right, we'll go ahead with the next person.
So my name is Kat. I'm 27. I actually own my own business. I do event coordination and I host events. And I also do EA work on the side. I really love doing events just because of interacting in the social aspect with people. And I hope to one day just expand it and blow it up.
Sounds good. All right, we'll go on to the next person.
Okay, hi everyone. My name is Natalia. I'm almost 33 years old. My birthday is this month. And I work as a career advisor for Toronto Film School. I love my job. I worked in employment services for quite some time, but I decided to move into educational environment to help students with jobs as well.
Good. Well, thank you three for being here today for the show. Today's topic is going to be modern parenting. And I would love to know a little bit more about your journey as parents. All three of these individuals have young children, so I'd love to know a little bit more on how you're navigating life as a parent in 2023. So once again, Montana, can you start off by telling us a bit about your child?
Sure. I would love to tell you about my son. So my son's name is Cassius. He is 3.5 years old and he will be 4 in August, and he will also be starting school this year. It has been challenging, and it's kind of just recently started hitting me that he will be starting school in August. For the past 2 years, he's actually been in a daycare Montessori. When I had him and staying home with him when I was on my maternity leave, I felt like this child was beyond his years, and I thought that he was giving me a run for my money. And I just wanted him to continue challenging himself and challenging other people, which is why I put him into a Montessori, which is very hands-on, honestly a firecracker. And that is something that I say so lightly right now. But if you've met Cassius, you would understand that like fully, because he just has so much life, so much energy. He's so charismatic. He's so loving. He's such a fun kid to be around, honestly, and like I would never trade it for anything.
Yeah, I see the love you have for your son. Sharing that. All right, go ahead, Kate.
My kid's crying. I wanted to wait till you were done. She's freaking out. Sorry. Give me one sec.
All right, Natalia, tell us a little bit about your baby.
So she was born 15 months ago. So far I enjoyed the ride. He's an amazing kid. Very easy. And I feel like I was pretty much ready for motherhood because I know my husband for many years. We've been together for 12 years and we kind of felt ready for a kid at some point. We had a kid as planned. He's 15 months. His name is Nick. Starting daycare very soon, in 1 month from now. So I'm going back to work in July. So I'm going to have this 1 month to kind of adapt, see how it goes, make sure that he gets comfortable.
Very good, very good.
It was a good ride, I think.
Good. So you said that you were married, right? Yeah. And you've been in your relationship for 12 years. Are you in a relationship or with your child's father right now?
So I'm not with my child's father, but I am in a relationship.
Okay. So what was that process like for you? Would you have ideally wanted to be married before having a child? For you, was it scary? How did you feel going through that experience?
So it was definitely a time. I'll start by saying that. So my son's father and I, we had been in a relationship and we had no plans on having a child at the time. We were actually on vacation in Jamaica when I found out that I was pregnant, and I was on the trip and I just felt like I didn't feel like myself, to be quite honest with you. Like, I've been to Jamaica many times, like my family's from there, but when I was there, I was like sleeping a lot. I was like having like a lot of anxiety, and I was just like, I just didn't feel like myself. So it was really challenging because I remember the day, like the specific day, it was December the 22nd, 2018. And I had went out with one of my dad's friends in Jamaica. We went to town, and I was telling her like, I missed my time of the month, so on and so forth. And on a whim, honestly, I literally was just like, you know what? I'm going to walk myself into this pharmacy, and I'm going to buy a pregnancy test in Jamaica, mind you. Took the test. I went back to where my son's father was, and I said hi to like him and his family, got the key to use the washroom, and then went to use washroom. And then that's when I found out. I remember immediately crying, to be quite honest with you, because at the time we weren't on very good terms. So my immediate response was just to bawl my eyes out, honestly, in a bathroom, because I really didn't know how else to react. I didn't know how this was going to affect our relationship. I didn't know a lot of what was going to happen. And from there, I immediately told him, like, I was on vacation with him. So I immediately told him, and
How did you react?
he was taken aback. He was like, I don't like, what are we going to do, kind of thing. Like, he wasn't really for it at the time, and like that was hurtful, but like I understand where he was coming from, you know what I mean? Like,
How old were you?
when I found out, I was 21. I mean, it gave me a beautiful baby boy out of it, and regardless of the circumstances, I wouldn't change anything about my last pregnancy, because I believe everything happens for a reason. Everything flows and is meant to be the way that it's intended to be, right? So I believe that the things that I had to go through and how I found out about my pregnancy, and just it was all God's timing. And at the end of the day, like I had nothing to do with it, regardless if I thought that I had control or whatever. It was God's timing. So he was meant to be here.
Amazing. So let me ask the both of you. I'll start with you first. So what was it like the moment you found out you were pregnant, and what is your favorite part about being a mother? And you've been a mother now for about a year, 15 months, I think you said. So what's been your favorite part, and what were you feeling the moment you found out you were pregnant?
It's actually a funny story how I found out. We were planning, so we were kind of working towards it. And I took the test when I kind of felt like I was really sleepy for the past few weeks as well. So I know what you were talking about. And I was just feeling weird. So I took the test, I found out, and my husband came back home from watching Maple Leafs game, and they lost. And that was around this time, actually, of the year. They didn't get into playoffs. No, they did get into playoffs, but they lost the first round. And she was like so sad about it because he's a big fan. He comes home, and I'm telling him, well, one team lost, but another team won. And I was showing him the test. He was like really happy.
Love that.
Do you have the same last name as him? Did you take his?
No.
Okay, why did you not take his last name? Is that not a normal thing for your culture?
It's actually a normal thing for our culture, yes. But because we live in Canada for so long, in Western society, basically, and, I have my career, everybody in my field knows me by my last name, my LinkedIn, my social media, everything.
That'd be a lot of work to change it.
It's just too much work. I'm used to it, and I don't think it's something that I have to do. I feel like it's a little outdated.
Does he feel like, does he give you any pushback for you not taking his last name? Does he care?
No, not at all. He just said that he wants our son to have his last name, of course.
That's what I was going to ask
Yeah.
next. Does your son have both last names or just one last name, which is the father's last
Yeah.
name? Okay. But do you ever feel like you would want to change your last name so that the three of you will all have the same last name and you're one family of whatever your last name is?
No, interestingly not. I feel like our family, the way it works in our family is partnership. We're two individuals with our own careers, our own individual understanding of this world and how everything works. And we don't have a problem with the last name, change your last name and anything like that. Even my parents never asked me about it. And they are more traditional.
But I understand other cultures are different. They work different.
My mom changed her last name twice back and forth because she doesn't like my dad's last name. And the reason is because it's Jewish, and in Russia, especially back in the USSR, it was a little not dangerous, but people, all the prejudice were from a pretty small town, so there's not too many Jewish people there. So having a Jewish last name would be a little not
Fair enough.
not comfortable.
The smartest.
So she was changing it back and forth because we had to immigrate, and it was just easier with all the documents.
Yeah.
But yeah, they were not pushing me, and we feel that this is fine.
Well, if that works for you, and that's perfectly fine. I'm going to take it back to you really quick, but before I do that, just tell us really quickly your favorite part about being a mom.
My favorite part of being a mom? There's too many things.
If just sum it up to one thing that you would say is your favorite part about being a mom.
Kissing him every single day 1,000 times.
Is that what you do?
It's addictive.
Does he have the baby smell still?
Yes.
All right, so tell us your favorite part about being a mother.
My favorite part about being a mom, oh my goodness. I would honestly say my favorite part about being a mom is seeing the world through someone else's lens. It's absolutely amazing to just watch this little human maneuver the world and identify new things and just figure out life and ask me so many. My son asked like 1,000,001 questions, and like at times it could be so frustrating, but I just have to remember that like he is 3.5 years old and he is growing and learning, and majority of the things that he's going to know in his very young life are things that I'm going to teach him, that things that he's going to learn by doing and by going to daycare and like, interacting with other kids, right? So I really love I really enjoy just seeing life through his eyes and enjoy seeing what really interests him and makes him smile, puts butterflies in his tummy and just like makes him very happy. Because like when he's happy, I'm super happy. When I hear him giggle, when he thinks something is just so unbelievably silly, I look at him and how did I make this kid? Where did I go right? Kind of thing. So yeah, I think it's
Beautiful.
It's funny because you repeated my mom's words about seeing the world through his eyes. That's exactly what she was saying.
great minds think alike. See?
Very good. So ladies, in this box, I have created some custom questions for you. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with it. I'll actually pick out the questions and then we'll discuss. Here we go with the first question. How has technology impacted your parenting style, both positively and negatively? Go ahead first, Montana. And then we'll go to her on the next one first.
Okay, so I would definitely say TikTok is both a curse and a blessing. Sometimes we don't know what to do with it. I have seen a lot of different parenting styles on TikTok and just different parental views on a lot of different situations, different topics, and what people would do in certain situations. So it's really funny to kind of just see what other people would do and how mindful they are and how their minds work. I would definitely say that TikTok has been, I'm not really on TikTok, but when I do go on it and when I do see the parenting side of TikTok, you really just have to I don't know, take it with a grain of salt. Are you really going to listen to somebody else's opinion right now? Or are you just going to go with your gut feeling?
No, I'm just curious because you're saying, I don't really know. So help me to understand. So is it that they're showing TikTok videos on how to parent? Or
No.
is it because they're speaking about specific topics that you don't agree with in regards to their parenting styles?
So you have to remember everyone has their own perspective on how they think you should parent or how you should do something or what you should be saying to your child, right? So a lot of the times I'll see a TikTok video and again, I take it with a grain of salt because I'm not that serious about TikTok, but then I always go to the comment section and it's amazing to see how some women or some men get underneath other people's comments and with their point of view, with their perspective. And you get on the internet and you have a profile for views, you're giving everybody else the opportunity to get into your life and say their piece, right? So it is really difficult to obviously shy away from that. But it's just at the same time, we all have to remember that we all came from different circumstances where we all don't have the same parenting styles. Kind of just, I go with the flow. I go what feels right with me. I go with what feels right with my morals and my instincts and also what I was brought up with. I'm not everything do I agree with, but I don't think technology shapes me in the sense of what I do with my son. He has a tablet, don't get me wrong. He's definitely one of those kids that has a tablet, but he just got it, okay? And there's limits and levels, and he doesn't really care for it all that much, to be quite honest. He has one game that he loves, and he has few shows on Netflix, but the most that he'll be watching it is driving to daycare in the morning in the car, you know, like for like a solid 15 to like 45 minutes kind of thing. When we're at home, he doesn't touch his tablet. He always is playing with his toys, playing with his dog, wants to be outside. And that's what that's how I was as a kid. So I'm happy to see that like my child's not a part of the generation that needs to be at home and needs to be behind a computer screen playing video games on their tablet all the time, crying for it, throwing fits. Like, he has never thrown a fit for his tablet, and I'm honestly so grateful for that. But he knows how to work the TV. He can turn it on, turn it off, turn on Netflix himself. He knows how to put the password in my mom's phone. Doesn't know how to put the password on iPhone, but knows how to put the password in my mom's phone, go to YouTube Kids, that kind of stuff. Sometimes that stuff is really, it's fearful because, again, YouTube is one of those things that, yes, there's the algorithm and it says that it's for kids, but you never know what's really for kids and what your kids are really watching. So that's something that you have to make sure that you're paying attention to. And I think in that sense, technology is a negative because we don't always know what our kids are watching. And it is difficult to be monitoring it 24/7, but you just have to make sure that you stay on top of it.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that perspective.
No problem.
Dallas, we're going to go to you next. So do you want me to read the question again or you got it? All right, go for it.
A negative is definitely using your phone all the time. So no, before I had my son, I was in the phone a lot. And when I had my son, I started to notice how much screen time I am getting. And also we're watching Netflix, obviously, in the evening with my husband, and phone as well, the social media. I don't use the TikTok. I use Instagram mostly. And I just saw how much time I'm spending just scrolling and watching some stuff that would make no difference in my life whatsoever. And I think that I noticed how much my son started to notice it as well. He started to pick up my phone and going into the phone, picking up other objects and saying hello to these objects. So he knows what the phone is, right? So he started to kind of try to use the button, not the buttons, but like, pushing the screen and everything. So in the last 2 months, I'm starting to really cut on using my phone when she's not sleeping. And I'm trying to leave this scrolling. Because sometimes you're so tired. You're just like, I don't want to watch a movie. I don't want to do anything. I just want to be on my phone. That's it, exactly. And I'm trying to cut on this time because I see that I'm setting an example. But I think it's important, right? Self-reflection is an important part of parenting. School. So that's the negative part. And also, I think the negative thing is all the AI coming in, because that's going to change the whole schooling system and how kids are studying. And it's going to be interesting to see what it also, right, for our generation. But I'm sure internet was scary for our parents and our grandparents, but everyone is okay. And the good thing, amount of information, you can find whatever you want. He has a fever, he has some other symptoms, you Google it, you find a bunch of medical articles, and you can be like, oh, maybe I shouldn't go to the hospital 8 hours. You can find information and calm yourself down, especially with the first child. You're always nervous when they get sick. So you can find information very easily. My mom had 2 books about motherhood and babies, and they had to search for these books. But it was really difficult to find. And
Was this back in Russia?
one of the books was Dr. Spock. We're sure many people know of him.
Dr. Spock.
And the other one was Penelope Lynch, I think her name is. Also very famous. That's the only 2 books she had. And
Wow.
every time we were sick, she didn't know what was going on with us, but any developmental changes in us, to go back to the book and find the
My father actually had that book too. I know the book you're talking about. He would open it all the time to see what kind of symptoms we have. And I would always laugh. What do you have this for? Until he threw it out because now he has a phone or anything. Well,
I actually read both books, but obviously if I need to find something quicker, I'm just going to go to the internet and Google it.
Got it.
In terms of that, it's obviously much better with technology.
very good. All right, we're going to go with the next question. So how do you balance traditional values and beliefs with modern parenting styles? Do you plan to raise your child with traditional values? So that can be traditional values in the sense of, mother, father, maybe if they have some sort of religious background, or if you want them to have some religious background. If your son, because you both have sons, will play a more traditional role in a family. So when father's the head of the household and provides, women support with nurturing the children and catering to the children, taking care of the family and taking care of the home. Do you plan to raise your child with those traditional values, or are you going to raise them the modern route where the lines are a little bit blurred in that aspect of traditional beliefs and modern life? We'll start with you first this time, because you went with her first last time.
Sure.
So do you plan to raise your child with traditional values similar to what you grew up with? And what type of values are you planning to raise it with?
That's an easy question, because yes, more or less traditional, I would say, because I come from a family with mother and father. I have a brother as well. My mom was not working for the first 6 years because the maternity leave back home was 3 years per child. So she never actually started her career, but she found herself in early 40s, actually. She became a graphic designer. She still works in this field, and she loves it, absolutely loves it. She loves to create photo books for us, and looks amazing. She keeps track of all the pictures. She writes a journal about my son, so everything is documented day by day. I don't have to do it, so that's amazing. I always had a role of a father in my family. Obviously, mom took care of us because she was at home, but that doesn't mean that my father wasn't involved. My father was really involved, especially during high school, because he helped me a lot with math and science that I absolutely hate. That's why I ended up in my career and not anything else science related. So I always had a good family, and I want to kind of follow this. My husband as well, he has a very similar family. And the way how we came to Canada, we still want to save this, values that we got from our parents in terms of language, especially. We want him to speak our language as well, and to grow up, maybe striving to get similar family, I guess, as us. But I think the main difference is that my mom, I don't think she's very independent from my father. And in my marriage, like I said in the beginning of the podcast, we're two individuals with our careers, with our beliefs that came together to become a family. We had our bumps on the road. We split up even after wedding, actually. We split up for a year. We broke up in the 12 years we were together. We broke up a couple of times, even once after wedding. We're still a family. We had a son, and it was a decision that we made. And we decided to stay together as a couple. But I still strongly believe that I want to have my career, and I'm not going to be a stay-at-home mom. That's why I'm looking forward to my job. And my belief is that I still need to be in some way independent. I still want to have my own money. I still want to have, I don't want to blend in with my husband, because I think I'm a woman. I have my own.
Can I ask you a question?
Of course.
So what percentage of the bills do you want to pay?
That's a really good question, because right now I'm on maternity leave. So we were trying to do 50-50 back in the days when I was still working. He makes more than me because he was working for much longer. He's almost 13 years.
Okay.
I was studying in the university, so I started my career much later. And I'm going to try to be 50-50 after I go back to work. I don't think it's going to be 50-50, to be honest with you, because right now, obviously, he makes more and he's going to continue to make more. But
the reason why I ask is because you said that you want to raise your son to have traditional values. And correct me if I'm wrong, your husband being a provider, maybe not 50-50, let's say he did 70-30. Would he not be emulating the type of husband you want your son to be for his wife? Or would you rather him be in a relationship with a woman and aspire to have the same 50-50 relationship?
When I was talking about traditional values, I wasn't really talking about the money part, though.
Okay.
A little bit about money part as well, but more so, just taking on some big decisions. For example, when we immigrated, my father was the one who was taking the family, studying English and doing all that. Somebody needs to, right? And I want my son to be that person who can stand up and say, I'm gonna do it, right? I'm gonna be responsible for the decision. Although he might discuss it and they might think about it together, but I want him to be the one to stand up and offer that help or support or take on the responsibility first.
Okay.
But in terms of relationships, I do strongly believe in partnership. So if I take care of the kid, that means we do it 50-50 because we're both working. So that means aside from breastfeeding that he obviously cannot do, he is able to do anything. So feed him, do the bath, put him to sleep. If he's cranky, make sure he calms down. So do whatever I can do. And after 15 months, he's been pretty good. So I would say it's almost 50-50 aside from breastfeeding.
It sounds like a very equal relationship.
Yeah.
Okay.
But in terms of money, it really depends on the situation. I would love to be 50-50. But the situation is
If he's making more, he should contribute more.
But at the same time, he would never go on paternity leave. He would never sit at home with the kid. It's just my internal feeling that I do want to contribute. I do want to feel like an equal in my family. But in some ways, we're still traditional in the way we're raising him, with the understanding who the father should be, the way he needs to behave,
Very good.
that he needs to help and support and be there for mom. So in that way, yes, we're traditional. And I have a very strong opinions about what's happening in the world right now that I'm not going to share. But
All right, so we're going to go ahead and take it to you next, Montana. So do you plan to raise your child with traditional beliefs in your modern parenting styles? And do you plan to raise your child with more traditional values, as I was explaining before?
So to build off of what you said, Natalia, honestly, growing up, I didn't have the best role models for a healthy relationship, if I'm being quite honest. The only relationship, and I say this with my whole heart, the only relationship I look at in my life that I look up to is the relationship of my grandparents who migrated here from Guyana more than 50 years ago. They were married for over 50 years. They are the longest known marriage that I know to date. And that type of love is the only love that I aspire to have. It's where you're so far in desire that you could say shut up to your partner, but at the same time, at the end of the night, you're going to be in bed with them. You guys are going to be saying sorry to each other and that you love each other. And then the next day, acting like nothing ever happened. You know what I mean? Or like just moving on. You're not dwindling in the moment. That is so in that sense, right now, obviously I'm not with my son's father, so I can't say that he has a two-parent household, but two parents are definitely in the picture. Like, his father is very much present. He sees his dad on a weekly basis. He spends time with me. He spends time with both sides of our family. So I'm very adamant on wanting my child to know both sides of his family, knowing both of his cultures. He's Guyanese and he's Jamaican. So I think that it's extremely important for him to know where he comes from and his roots, to know the food, the culture, the music, absolutely, like everything that goes along with it. I think it's extremely important. As far as religion, I'm religious and his dad is religious as well.
What kind of religion do you practice?
So I'm actually Anglican and his dad is Catholic. To be quite honest, it's right now we're in a little bit of lieu, I would say, because he'll be starting school in September, like I'd mentioned already. And it's in order to go to a Catholic school, you need to have Catholic parents, you need to be baptized. But if you're not baptized yet, you can have one Catholic parent. So he does have that parent. And it's, for me personally, I'm not going to speak about my views. I just personally, I didn't go to a Catholic school. I think I turned out great. Not knocking anyone that went to Catholic schools. I just don't think that it's required for my child to go to a Catholic school and also practice his faith.
So Because children don't get to really choose in the beginning. They get to choose when they're adults.
But that's the thing. I don't believe that when I was baptized as a child, I didn't make that choice for myself. And if I was right now, if I was to get baptized, would I get baptized Anglican? Probably not.
But would you want to teach your child the values that the Anglican church teaches you and that you believe in? Or would you want him to have...
I would want him to have the choice. I want him to choose what he believes in. So I set the foundation for him, but as a man or as a young child and as a young man that's growing up, I want him to be able to develop his own thoughts and to be able to say, I've done my research and this is what I feel is near and dear to my heart and this is true and this is what I believe. If my son was to grow up and say that he aligns much more with Christianity or much more with being Catholic like his father, I would have no problem with that. But that's a choice that you've made after you've done ample reflection, you've done your research, you went to, whether it's a church, if he was interested in being Jewish, he went to a synagogue or whatever, kind of just to get the understanding of that religion and that faith. But as a child, when you get baptized, when you're born, as parents, we're making that choice for you. And I know that I always want God to to watch over my child, but I don't want to call all the shots for him, because at the end of one day, he's going to grow up and he might say, I don't believe in this.
Let me ask you a question.
Absolutely.
I have a few questions for you.
Absolutely.
So the first question I have for you is, do you plan to be married someday?
That's hard. Do I see myself as a wife? Absolutely. Would I love to get married? Absolutely. Do I look at my future and think that I will get married? Absolutely.
Would the person that you decide to marry, if that person was Christian and he decided to marry you and he wanted your family to be a Christian family, would you be comfortable with him having his beliefs taught to your child?
It's a good question. So it's a really good question. I believe that if there is a man that I have in my life that wants to teach me something, so this is my keyword. He wants to teach me something. He's not trying to change me. So you want to teach me about your religion in the hopes that I will convert. But my question is, what if I don't convert? Right? So I think it all comes down to what you're really comfortable with. And I mean, again, like I said, I'm Anglican and I've been Anglican since I was baptized. Do I necessarily still say that I'm Anglican? I absolutely do. I still go to church. I still read my Bible, not consistently, but I do it. But I'm not heavy on saying that my son has to be baptized right now. I don't see the need in it, because I know that God is going to watch over him. And I just feel like that immensely inside of me. But again, I know that it's important to his family and for their traditions and for their sake, that's something that I'm willing to compromise, because I know that that's important to them. Co-parenting for me is very important. And maintaining the two-parent household, even though we're not living in the same household, is very important for me to show my son that he has two parents that are here and that are present and that are not going anywhere. Regardless of our differences, we're not going anywhere. I think I'm trying to do something that's different from my parents and communicate with my son's father, not on a malicious level, not on a vindictive level, but just as we're not friends, but we're doing life together because we have this child that looks up to both of us. And there's times where my son will say, I want my mommy and my daddy in the same room. And it's just what do you say? And it's I will still go out of my way. And my son's father and I, if there's a family occasion or something like that, we'll still do something together with our son so that he sees us together. So he sees that we have healthy communication and that we can be in the same room. We don't hate each other. It's not we try to stay apart. So in that sense, I don't think traditional for me. My life has very much been more modern. My mom migrated here when she was 11. So a lot of her life is this Western society, is living in Canada, right? And she left her life in Guyana. She's never been back. So I think even my brothers growing up, I have 5 older brothers. I'm the only girl of 6. And my 2 older brothers that lived with me my whole life always say to my mom, oh, she was raised so differently. And it's I definitely, as a grown woman now, definitely see the difference in how I was raised compared to 2 boys. And it's a little bit backwards, but again, like I mentioned, I turned out fine. You know what I mean? And I'm an independent woman. I don't mind paying my portion of the bills. I don't mind contributing. But do I absolutely want to have a partner that will take care of me, that I can depend on, that I can lean on. And if there are times that I can't go 50-50, I know that they won't mind picking up that 70% while I contribute my 30, you know what I mean? And I think that that's very important to remember and like kind of just to come across. And I feel like that's something that like in my last relationship that like, I wasn't getting that matching, you know, like the energy, that percentage, that support. So like, it was at times it could have been and was really difficult.
So let me ask you both a question because you both have sons, and I'll start with you first. So what type of values would you want the woman that your son decides to marry? What type of values would you want them to have? Would you want them to have traditional values or modern day values?
Thing is, the word traditional, Evan, is very broad. The word traditional, what do you want to hear about it? You want to hear about religion? You want to hear about language?
Let's reframe the question. If you had to build the perfect woman for your son to marry, what qualities would that woman have, and what kind of mindset would make you say, I'm excited for my son to marry this woman because I know that woman shares similar values that I share in my relationship with my husband or boyfriend?
So I would absolutely want my son to be with someone that is a go-getter, that has a mindset that is very positive, someone that looks at life and looks at it as an opportunity. We can all be realists, and I look at myself as a realist, but I want him to know that I want someone that's always going to support him. And even if he has a crazy idea, she's going to be like, you know what, let's try it out and see if it works. Because at the end of the day, like, your partner is supposed to be like your best friend. And I want the woman that my son comes across one day that he's going to bring home, that I hope I fall in love with. I hope and I pray that she is a respectful young woman. I hope that she has family behind her. My family is extremely important to me. So I hope that family is one of those things that is also very important to her, and that she doesn't shy away from that. And I don't want him to find a woman that is soft-spoken. I want her to be outspoken. I don't want her to sit here and not tell him how he's feeling. I don't want her to sit here and think that she has to be quiet, because she doesn't. I also want her to know that like a woman that, again, I feel like I've been a hustler. So I want someone that is not afraid to go to work, not afraid to get their hands dirty, not afraid to contribute, and that doesn't just want to hand out, to be quite honest.
Before I chime into that, I'd love to hear your perspective. Please go ahead.
So I think she should be smart, good sense of humor, partner, sure. Because lots of men, they just afraid to talk about their feelings. That's, I think, one of the main problem with the modern man. Not only modern, I think generally. And in my culture, that's a huge problem. And just have no idea how to talk about their feelings. And I really hope to raise my son with an idea that you can come to me and talk to me, and doesn't matter what happens, you can just come in and we're going to decide what's going to do next. There's no point of thinking about and, being angry about what happened. Let's think about what to do next. So the woman should be someone who's open for these conversations, where they both feel the security to come to each other and talk. So I think one of the main things, because my husband had to learn it the hard way. We had a lot of problems because of that. He wasn't able to communicate what he was feeling. So I think right now he's talking about it himself as well, that I helped him to overcome this traditional way of not talking about his feelings ever.
There's a reason for that.
Right? Parenting usually is the reason.
No, but I do want to let you finish.
And so smart. She needs to, like you said, not being afraid to work. She needs to be the one who wants to constantly study or do some type of self-development, doesn't matter what, but work on herself and what she does in her life. And adventurous, I guess. So maybe going to another country to work for a little bit, to have a fun life.
So I find it really interesting. And I asked that question on purpose because I wanted to understand how much the two of you, what men really want and what men really find attractive. And a lot of the things that you're saying are all really great qualities. But what I would push back on, because you both said really interesting things. And that's why I want to just break it down and try to share from a man's perspective. When men are dating, they typically look for women who are more on the submissive side, a little bit more quieter, right? Versus having a girl who's really rambunctious, really loud, really out there. It's a little bit more not as attractive for men.
Can I make a
I
comment?
think both of us
So-
want to say something.
Yeah.
I just have just a comment. So when you
Sure.
say rambunctious, right, and loud, so like, I know that I said I would like the woman or a woman that comes into my son's life to be outspoken, right?
Mm.
And I saw your eyes get really large when I said that comment.
Because guys would prefer for their woman to be more agreeable versus outspoken.
Absolutely. But see, this is where I have a lot of run-ins with the modern day man, and I'll be honest,
Mm.
because
Okay.
it's like accountability and like, deflection. You know what I mean?
That down for me.
So like when you try to say something and tell them something, it's more deflecting from the situation than like acknowledging either A, this is how you're feeling,
Mhm.
or B, this is how I made you feel. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Or it doesn't, but at the end of the day, when you say rambunctious, a woman can be outspoken with her partner and still be quiet in public, or still be seen in public but not heard.
I would agree with that. But I think men, communication sometimes doesn't always need to happen all the time. Sometimes peace and quiet is a very important thing for a man, right? And that's why I want to make sure to preface
agree,
that.
yeah.
Not to say that it's a bad thing. It's not a bad thing.
But
if
it's a
woman wants-
preference.
It's a preference.
The type of life I want my son to live, honestly, I've been thinking about this a lot recently, and I want him to live a rich life. And I don't mean that in the sense of how much money he has, but the things that he enjoys to do. I want him to be fulfilled in the life that he has and be happy. I mean, you only have one life, and I would hate for him to live it with regrets, living thinking that he could have done something, or he should have done something, or he should have done something differently. But living a rich life knowing that if he wants something, he can go get it because it's readily available to him.
Mhm.
And just, I would like him, like you said, to do something that's for the betterment of humanity and society, whatever that might be. It might not necessarily be working with animals in the forest, or I don't know, like going to space, but like in some way, shape, or form, like he's doing his part to create change. And I think that's the biggest thing. I think as humans, we all are here to make an impact and to leave our mark. And I just want him to live a rich and fulfilled life and leave his mark on humanity and this world before he ever depart. I just want his name to live on forever because he's the GOAT.
All right, just going to keep the questions going here. I'm just going to go with the next question. So what advice would you give to other mothers who are struggling to find a balance between work and family? I think you're just starting to go through this process right now, where you're about to start seeing what it's like to separate from your child and have to get back into the workforce. So how are you processing it? And are there any struggles that you're having right now with the process?
I think you need to ask for help if you feel like you're drowning. Maybe it's a grandma, maybe it's a friend, but not being afraid to ask for help. I know that for many people, there's no help. Maybe they just immigrated to Canada. They don't have any relatives or friends here. Situations are different.
Yeah.
But if there is an opportunity to get help, you need to ask for it, not being afraid to ask that. Also, time management, that's the key. I'm big on time management, especially when I'm working. I'm trying to write down lists of what I need to do, trying to be on schedule, because otherwise it's just going to be a huge mess. And I guess when I'm going back to work now, I'm going to have, another schedule to manage. But, right now my work is going to look very different because I would want to come home to my son as quick as possible. That's why I really like the fact that my job gives me an opportunity to work from home for 3 days. We chose a daycare that's literally 2 minutes from home, so I can pick him up earlier, and that's my plan. Because right now I cannot imagine not seeing him for 8 hours a day. For me, that's something really scary. It's a big change, so especially in the first few months, I'm gonna do my best to pick him up. My work is pretty flexible, so I can do it without a problem. I think it's a privilege that I have this kind of job with an opportunity to do that. Not all moms have it, right? So I'm really thankful for that.
Very good. What about for you? Because your son's about to have his first day of school. So you know what it's like to be working and taking care of your family at the same time. So what advice would you give and what's it been like for you?
Honestly, work balance / family life has been extremely hard for me, to be quite honest with you. When I returned to work after maternity leave, it was like mid-COVID, so I didn't actually return to like my full-time job at the time. But I did have a part-time job that I did go back to, and it was really good to get back out there and to be training my brain again, because just like being on maternity leave again, my sole focus is just raising this child, this baby, and just making sure that he's good at everything. So I think that when I went back to work and like the balance itself, when you get back, you feel great, but then you also feel a little bit of regret because you're like, I just put my child in daycare, or I just left them with.
Do you find that you
this
think about him
family
all
member.
day?
I think about my son 24/7, even when I'm like, I need a friggin' break. I'm thinking about him because I'm just like, because it's, you feel so much remorse. You're like, I want to be with you right now, but like sometimes like I'm like, I physically, I don't feel able to, like you have to take care of yourself first, obviously, in order for you to take care of someone else. And like, I'm very lucky that I have a strong support system. I'm very lucky to have both sets of my son's grandparents in my life, tons of aunts, tons of uncles that at any day, time, whatever the case may be, they like, if I ask them for help, they're happy to help. So I think I'm extremely, like you said, blessed and privileged to have that opportunity, but I have plenty of friends that don't have that option, and I definitely see what it does to them. And like, sorry. Yeah, I definitely see the toll that it takes on them. And as a mother, you try to be there for everyone and you can't. And it really takes a toll on yourself. So like my suggestion to young moms or to any moms is don't forget about yourself when you're trying to take care of everyone else, because like that's really important. Just don't lose yourself.
Happy mom, happy baby.
That's true. My wife is preaching that all the time. Make sure I'm happy first before I have a baby, because if I'm not happy, you're not having this baby. Okay.
And also just like, remember, like you can't do everything. You can't help everyone. There are some things that are going to be left outside of your hands. Like you don't need to touch everything. Not everything needs to feel your energy, your aura, your vibe. Some things you're going to outgrow. Like it's okay. You're going to go through a lot of changes. You're going to lose a lot of friends during motherhood. Early stages, midway, it's the flow, and like you're gonna grow from it. Just be ready for those changes, be ready to adapt, I'd say, and just be ready for the next step in your life.
I'm going to ask one last question before we wrap up. If you had the option, and in a magical world you had a partner, or you're in a relationship with your partner and you no longer have to work, and you could now be with your baby 24/7, you could be a stay-at-home mom, would you rather that life over having a career that you go to every day and work with your boss and things like that? And I want to start with you because I know for you, you're about to get back to work. So I'm very curious for your perspective. If you had an option, you had the ability to be a stay-at-home mom, would you rather that than to be an independent woman, career woman focused on that? Which one would you say would be more of a fulfilling life for you?
So I feel like I've flip-flopped between this a bit within like the last year to like year and a half, because like again, when I was on maternity leave and I went back to work, I felt like immense remorse for like leaving my not even 1-year-old left. Yeah, he wasn't even one yet. I feel like I felt really bad for leaving him with his dad to go to work for, let's say, 6-hour shifts 3 times a week, and then another part-time job. And it was just like, before I had him, I was working all the time. So I was always like very reliant on myself to like be bringing in money. I never really depended on anybody else. So it was just like, even when I had him, I was still looking forward to doing that. I think that even if I had, so I want to always feel secure. If I was to have a partner that was not my son's father, obviously, and they gave me the option to rely on them, I would always have a backup.
That always have a backup.
Regardless if that's something like
I mean, when you say backup, like
not like
you're doing on the
something that I'm passionate about. I don't want to live at home. I don't want to be at home 24/7 and not doing something that I'm not passionate about whatsoever. That
call it a hobby.
It could be a hobby,
Okay.
but we like hobbies that make us money.
Okay,
So
for sure,
if we're going to
for
call it
sure.
a passion, that makes us money. So I would want to be doing something that, again, that I can build on. I'm very big on like leaving a legacy for my son. So however I do that, again, I don't want to be piggybacking off someone else. It would be great to get the help and to utilize that. But like at the same time, like I want something for myself, and I always want my partner to know that I am able to do something, regardless if he wants to take care of me or not.
Totally agree with you. I would still do something that fulfills me. I want to feel like I'm growing. I want to do some self-development because I strongly believe that it's going to make me a better mom, right? Because what am I going to teach my son?
Wow.
When you're on a maternity leave, you feel it. It hits you hard. You feel that your brain is a little rusty. Even with this podcast, I'm presenting all the time at my work. Right here, I had some bloopers, right?
It's not coming as naturally.
Because it's been a year and a half
Yeah.
without me talking publicly. So I have to go back and learn it all over again, or, do something to feel myself again in terms of my career. So I would definitely not choose a stay-at-home mom situation. Never. And yes, in this world, I do believe that we need to always have a backup. It doesn't matter how good is your family. It might be all unicorns and beautiful life and big house and an amazing family, but you never know. You can believe, you can really hope for that, and that you're gonna grow old together. But I feel that in the modern world, a woman needs to have some backup for sure. Maybe it's a part-time job, maybe not a full-time job. That's another story. Obviously, I don't want to work 40 hours
I think
a
the
week.
word backup really.
The backup is the
triggers-
wrong word, but I feel like it's the same concept as when you're young and you go on a date with a man and your father says, you need to make sure you have money in your purse in case you want to leave. For some reason, your partner gets laid off of work. And like he doesn't have a second or third option. There's no reserve fund, but you have your little part-time business. You've been working 3 days a week. You're able to contribute towards the bills, towards the rent, towards your mortgage, towards the car payments, the insurance, whatever it is, because you were holding down the fort on your end, right? You were still doing something that fulfilled you. And at the end of the day, regardless if that money doesn't mean anything to you, you could be putting it all into savings, that you still have something that not even just you, but you guys could fall back on. You know what I mean? It's not necessarily a backup for just you, but it's just because I know in some cases I will make money and I'll put away a set amount of money and I won't tell anyone that I have that. And like at some times, like I remember there was one time where I think like I had to pay for my son's daycare like out of pocket one time, and like where was I going to get the money? Well, I had to go into the money that obviously I set aside because who else is going to do it? So again, you just need to be prepared for every aspect, for every situation, because you really never know.
Life happens. People get sick. People get out of work. There's so many different situations happen, right? So I think at this time, everybody in the family should be stepping in and helping out, supporting.
You could absolutely be a stay-at-home mom and still be making the bag. I'm just saying. But that's just me.
Well, we're going to wrap up the show. Thank you guys so much for being here. This is actually part one because I feel like this conversation did not get to go through all the questions. So I would love to invite these ladies back.
You're going to have us back? We'd love to.
And if you'd love to come back, that would be awesome. So we can do part two. And, hopefully by then, Caitlin can be here with us.
Absolutely.
And, she can be a part of the conversation. Thank you so much for being here. Take the time now to subscribe to the YouTube channel if you made it this far. And we are out.